Hey, folks. My name is Eddie Corrigan, and welcome to the first and inaugural episode of Politics and Pints. I'm here with my co host and good friend.
Steve Botsford, how we doing?
Steve is running for Illinois Senate in Illinois, and we decided that we were going to start a podcast because we really have seen the partisanship that has happened in the United States, as I'm sure all of you have, from the past 20, 15, 10 years. And we really thought our relationship summed up what so many folks nowadays are dealing with. And that's the fact that one of them is a conservative and the other is a liberal, a Democrat and a Republican and a Democrat. And so we've had a great relationship our entire life, disagreeing about certain aspects of politics. And, a good anecdote about mine and Steve's relationship is the fact that we went to high school together. We were roommates in college. We both worked on Capitol Hill for a Republican and for a Democrat. And the story that really sums up our relationship with politics and our relationship with, being a Republican and being a Democrat and still getting along and still having these conversations goes back to about 6 years ago. We were at a senior open tournament, and it was after a long day of watching the golfers play, having a couple pints, and we decided to have a discussion about immigration. And that discussion was lively, as it always is. Both of us came away with a sense of righteousness and a belief in ourselves.
Well, and both of us, his younger brother and my dad were with us. So it was the four of us. They didn't really do much talking during this argument. And we went for it. We went back and forth, and we got after it a little louder. We're sitting outside on a nice summer night.
Yeah.
And we got into it, and the next day, Ed and Jack had to leave a little earlier, so they left before we woke up, and me and my dad are sitting, we're packing up the house, and he's just like, Steve, you talked to Ed? I was like, no. Wow. He texted me like, hey, we're headed out. He's like, you guys good? I was like, yeah. Why? He's like, well, you guys were kind of getting into it last night. And I'm like, that's just how me and Ed argue. I mean, whether we're talking immigration or whether Tim Tebow should have gotten a chance.
Certainly.
That's how we're going to argue.
You might agree on that one.
That one, there's no disagreement.
Yeah.
And so it was just funny. So I texted Ed, I'm like, yo, dude, my dad thinks we're going to have a little bit of beef. And then Ed goes.
So, Steve texts me that and goes, he actually ended up calling me. And he goes, hey, my dad just wanted to check in. Like, are we good? And I said, that's so funny because my brother Jack said the same exact thing. He was asking me like, hey, you and Steve really got into it last night. And I was like, I didn't really think it was that bad. And I said to him, I can guarantee you that Steve walked away from that debate absolutely sure of himself that he had slaughtered me, that he had definitely taught me the finer points of immigration policy in the U.S. And I told Jack, I went away with the same exact attitude, that Bots was defeated, that he had learned his lesson, and that he should not debate me in immigration again. And so that has really summed up our relationship with politics, I think, since the beginning. It's that we can disagree, we can come away from the debate with respect for each other, but also with the idea that, we're probably, in our minds, we're still right, and we're not upset with that person because we think they're wrong or that, their conclusion is different than mine. And I think so much of the problems that we're seeing now is the fact that when you do disagree with someone, when there is, let's call it, louder voices being said, they come away from it so angry and so bitter and so sure that that person actually is their enemy and that, they're not just wrong.
Yeah, they're bad.
They're evil. They're
exactly,
bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they only have that wrong opinion for bad, malicious intent.
Yes.
It isn't just that they have a different opinion and they have it for the good reasons. They still love America and want the best. They have a negative idea of it.
And they're trying to destroy America.
Exactly. Both sides. They're always trying to destroy it.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's amazing that we've lasted, almost 250 years with how many people are constantly trying to destroy this place.
Yeah, 100%.
So Steve and I came, about this idea of doing a podcast. Steve brought it to me, said, hey, I think this is a great opportunity for us to really speak to some folks, especially the folks in Illinois with Steve running for Senate right now, to really get to understand that we can have these disagreements and we can come away as friends. And where a lot of these debates have happened since the beginning, 1776 and before, right? We're talking our founding fathers. We're talking Sons of Liberty, we're talking the gold standard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking some, whether we think of the debates as, menial now, there were great debates happening throughout our history with a pint in hand, with a beer in hand, having the discussion in the bar. And when we're not in the bar, we can still have a pint. So what do you say we open these right now?
Let's do it.
All right.
So let's kick it on. That's what we kind of want to do. Obviously, there's going to be times when we're sitting here arguing about something, and we're both going to know, like, hey, I guess we're going to agree to disagree, and we may just cheers and go to the next topic.
Yeah,
it's not everything needs to have a final ending. There's times that we're both to be like, dude, I get your point, but I'm not with it.
Yeah, there's not always going to be a happy bow on arguments. They're always.
There shouldn't be.
There usually is not, right? That's the point of debate.
Yep.
You're there to have a discussion, listen to the other person, and then come away from it at least finding out what the other side has to say. But I think a large part of what this first segment and this first podcast should be about is really you, Steve, and why you decided to run. Your reasons for delving into Illinois politics, which for so many people they want nothing to do with.
It's a bit of a mess.
I mean, I think we've been talked about as the corrupt state for as long as we can remember,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
100%.
We had friends at Notre Dame that would constantly be telling us how bad Illinois was
Yep.
when we were bragging about it.
Yeah, vote early, vote often.
Yes.
That's kind of been that's the names we get called.
Well, we found out that we didn't realize that the Windy City, the windy politicians, that also meant us as well, because we were constantly bragging about our city,
of course,
constantly bragging about our state, and these guys from all across the country,
California
they
boys,
couldn't
New Yorkers,
they couldn't believe that guys that have 6 months of good weather, and
you're
only
flyover
have a
country.
beach. Yes.
No, sir,
no chance, no chance. But I think the best way for us to start off, Steve, is give us a little bit of a rundown of what initially drew you into politics before the Senate, before you worked for a congressman. What was your initial pull? What initially brought you, hey, let me see a little bit more about this. Let me find out a little bit more.
Yeah, so I really didn't grow up very political. I never was running for head of the student council president. I ran for student council one time just because there was a cooler homeroom to be in. So that was the only reason I was trying to do it. I think you were in the homeroom. So that was the only time I ever did it early. And I cared more about Notre Dame football and when we were going to win the national championship than
Still
I cared
waiting,
about.
by the way.
Yeah. Then I cared about who was going to win the next election. I did economics in undergrad. So I loved economics, and I actually kind of came into politics later after college. I was going to go to law school, and I had some time between when I was done with this project I was working on and when I was going to go to law school. And I knew this city councilman in Los Angeles that was running for Congress. So I needed about a 9-month gap that I just couldn't have a gap in my resume. So I talked to him and asked him, could I come intern for him if he wins his race? He's like, yeah, you're a smart kid. Would love to have you. If you really want to come to Washington, I think, you're a smart kid, you're hardworking.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. I'm like, awesome. Sounds great. And so he wins his race, and he tells his staffer, his first hire, hey, I've already talked to this kid. He's going to come to Washington, D.C., work with us. And something got lost in translation where I asked for an internship and how he explained it to his staffer. And so they hired me full time as a.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Actually.
And actually, a couple rings up the ladder. I started as a legislative correspondent, which
Yeah.
is not typically where you start in a congressional office. And I was like, well, this is pretty cool. And I got to D.C. I'm like, this job's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And maybe I push off law school for a little while and just really get involved and see what this is like. It's a cool job. You get to work on a ton of different stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, one day you're working on the armed forces policy and you're trying to figure out how we're going to do some procurement. The next day you're working on education. The day after that, you're working on veterans issues. It's just something different every day, and I love that fast pace. And so I liked it. I had a great team I was working with, so many smart people.
Shout out Tony Cardenas.
Shout out Tony Cardenas. He's the man. And so I really enjoyed it. So I spent 2.5 years working for Tony.
Mm-hmm.
One of the really cool parts was, Washington, D.C. is a great public transportation city, a great metro. So nobody on my staff had a car. I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, so in my mind, everyone needs a car because, when you're from Lake Zurich, you drive everywhere. You're not getting anywhere on a bus. And so I brought my car out, and so I was the only person on staff with a car. And so when the boss, when Tony had to go somewhere, he'd be like, hey, Steve, can you drive me? And be like, well, first off, you're my boss, so yes. Second off, I knew whatever he was going to was cooler than what I was doing. And he was so kind and really wanted me to be learn stuff and be successful that he would just bring me into all the meetings.
Yeah.
So I was 23 years old in meetings that were way above my pay grade. My favorite one, we sat and had breakfast with an incoming group of freshman congressmen and Arnie Duncan, the Secretary of Education, who was
Yeah.
headed up Chicago Public Schools as well. But it's just one of those, like, it's a cabinet secretary. And I'm like, one of my favorite ones. I'm like, he shakes my hand. He's like, hey, I'm Arnie. I'm like, this is a pretty cool job. Like, this is like, and like, you just sit there and you shut up and you listen. And there'd be times where, at the end of the day, like, boss Tony was like, hey, what are you doing for dinner? I'm like, oh, no plans. Always knew that the answer was always no plans.
Yeah.
Regardless if we were going to meet up or not, you just get a text, be like, hey, sorry, got to cancel. And like, you got it. And he'd bring me to dinner. And he'd be like, hey, I got to go dinner with a couple of my colleagues. You mind driving me? And then I'm like, of course. And then sometimes he'd be like, hey, you want to park the car and come in? I was like, yeah, I mean, of course. So like, there'd be times where it would be me, my boss, Congressman Cardenas. It would be Joe Kennedy the third. It would be Michelle Lujan Grisham, who's now the governor of New Mexico. And it was just like, and again, you sit there and you just shut up.
Yeah.
And you just learn so much. And like, you're hearing.
Certainly as a staffer.
Certainly as a staffer. Not anymore. Now I'm.
Yeah,
my name's going to be in the ballot now. So now I get to speak
Absolutely.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you just learn so much. And like, I literally was with him. Everywhere he was going off campus, I was there. So I just got in 2.5 years, I learned more than I could have possibly imagined. And like, really fell in love with it. Public policy is a great way to improve people's lives at scale.
Yes.
And you talk about, obviously, I think one of the things that a lot of people, especially my generation, they think like, I want to make the world a better place. And it's a noble goal, and there's a million different ways to do it. You can be teaching in public schools. You can run a nonprofit. You can work for a nonprofit. You could just volunteer for stuff, soup kitchens and whatnot. But for me, like, the policy stuff was really interesting. And bringing my economics background, you could just like use the basics of economics to kind of address so much more stuff that you can talk pretty confidently without being like an expert in everything.
Yeah.
So I kind of fell in love with it there, and then worked there for 2.5 years. I knew I didn't want to be a staffer forever, just on the main fact that I got my beliefs, and like, sometimes like my beliefs and the boss's beliefs weren't the same. I'm like, hey, we should do this, and that wasn't gonna be a priority. I'm like, well, like, it's kind of like, I want that to be. I think that is a priority, and so being able to now do it yourself, and like, I get to pick my whole agenda. I get to say exactly what I want. I don't have to take positions to please anybody. So I've enjoyed it. I ran for Chicago City Council in 2023. I came around.
Well, let's take a step. Let's take a step back.
Let's first get a little toast. A little toast for the boys.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers. Always good, even in a can.
Yep.
So you work as a staffer for 2.5 years, and I think I'm in complete agreement with you. I worked as a staffer on Capitol Hill as well, and I think, the amount that you learn, the people that you're around. Washington, D.C. gets such a bad rap at this point in time. The job gets a bad rap, and it's just, it's a lot of talking heads, a lot of people on social media telling you how terrible these politicians are, telling you how terrible the staffers are, when in reality, these staffers are some of the hardest working people you're going to find. I mean, how many nights did you stay up writing, legislation or, trying to help your congressman make the right decision on what, giving him the right, information for the bill that he was going to vote on at 11:30 at night, right?
Yep.
These are things that these staffers have to do, and they're paid $35, $40K a year, and some of them are Harvard graduates, Notre Dame graduates, Georgetown. These are very talented people.
Living in an expensive city.
Living in
so
an
like
expensive
35, 40, like, sounds pretty good coming out. Like, depends on where you're from. But when you're in D.C., like 35, 40
tough.
doesn't get you very far.
It is. And, I think a lot of it gets a bad rap. But I think, especially as someone like yourself who's always wanted, once you got that itch to help people with public policy, that's the best place to start. I really do believe that. And so, after Steve worked on the Hill, you got your master's in economics from Georgetown.
Yep.
No small feat. You got your MBA from Northwestern.
Yep.
You worked for, your family business in real estate. And then come 2022, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I was also I worked in finance for a little while as well.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, it was city council elections were coming up, and loved it. Love Chicago. I'm from the suburbs, but Bears fan, Cubs fan, Blackhawks fan, Bulls fan. Grew up like loving going downtown, and whether it's during Christmas and seeing the lights and everything about it. And so, the elections were coming up, and the woman who was representing me, I live in Lincoln Park, the woman that represented, she retired. And so an open seat was coming up. I was like, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I just, I think that especially, 2023, crime was a big issue in the city. It still is, but it was bigger back then.
Yeah.
Economic growth was somewhat stagnant. Housing was one of my big issues.
All still exist.
All still exists.
All
All
still
problems,
exist.
especially housing, and especially like the cool thing about city council is you get like a lot of authority, and you're one of 50. You can really right away if you win, you get to draft legislation, you get to push legislation. Your vote's important. One of the things I saw working on the Hill was there's 435 members, and almost everything's run by leadership.
Yeah.
You're pretty much told what you're voting on, how to vote. If you have bills ideas, if they're not like right in your committee, you're probably not going to move them. If you're going to move them, it's going to take forever. Almost everything's run by people that have been there for 12, 15, 20 years. Where city council, like you are in the mix right away. It's nonpartisan, so there isn't just a party boss telling you what to do. You get to just vote your conscience and like try to make your city better. So that's what I was excited for. So I jumped in the race. I had a great time. There are 6 of us. A lot of cool debates. Like got to meet neighbors, which was really cool. People that you wouldn't like. Obviously, you're just knocking doors and walking
I was
up to
going to
people.
say,
in the
how many
street.
doors did you knock?
Pretty much every one. I mean, yeah. Obviously, you can't get in all the apartment complexes because they won't let you in. But any door that was knockable, I knocked that thing. And it was cool to connect. You'd hear people with different ideas because obviously, you have your ideas. You're from policy. You read the blogs and the books and stuff, and so you got your ideas of like how to make the city or the country better. But then it was fun kind of hearing other people with their ideas of like their lived experience. Like they see something on the ground that you're not going to think about. My favorite one was obviously Chicago. We know street sweeping, and we know we all have gotten our tickets from not moving the car when we got sweep the streets. And as the climate has changed a little bit, it is now warmer longer, and so when the leaves fall, like the leaves are still on the trees longer than they used to be.
Sir, at least this year for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what it has to do with, but yeah.
But so, and one of the issues is that the set time of when street sweeping goes ends too early. So there's still leaves falling on the ground after they stop. And then there's just leaves that become like a mess in the gutters. Then winter comes, and now those leaves are backing up everything because they're sloshed around in our gutter system. And then we get snow and it freezes and it just creates a real havoc. And this woman was like, can we just move it back? You don't need. I'm not asking you to spend more money or do anything. Just start the street sweeping later and move it back. I'm like, that
sounds
seems simple. Yep.
Sounds very simple.
And it's just like there's people all over the place that have just these things. That it's not partisan. I mean, we're sweeping streets.
Yes.
And it's not gonna be a budget thing. It's just like, hey, let's just change it a little bit. And we don't do it because people don't hear it or there's some bureaucracy or whatnot. But like that little fix, which I was excited if I would have won. It's like that would have made that woman's life better. Yes. And then she could see, hey, like government really does listen to me and make my life just a little bit better. It's not. I'm not changing the world with it. I'm just making like a couple days a year. She's like, oh, that's kind of nice. Like
so, I look at that and I think about that from the ineptitude of government, right, and the bureaucracy that we have to deal with. That something as small as that can't be changed. And I think that there's a lot of new Democrats that feel that same way, right? That we're in a state right now where we're getting a lot of new ideas from the Democratic Party and from the Republican Party for that matter. But is there a place for Democrats that want to see a government run more efficiently?
Yeah, I think it has to be. I mean, if we're gonna be the party of government, we need that government to actually do the things we want it to do. You can't just keep saying like, "Hey, trust us," and then nothing gets better. Like you're gonna get people that get jaded and stop trusting you and stuff. I mean, you look at something under the Biden administration. I think in one of his big bills, I think they set up like $40 billion for rural broadband. So like trying to bring the internet to different parts of the country that don't have it like here in the city. And like great idea. Like I know the internet is the key to the economy right now.
In Southern Illinois.
Yeah. And so but they bogged it down with so many rules and so many different like things that you had to fill out and different like, oh yeah, you're gonna get bonus points if you do this or this or that. And they ended up not getting any broadband. So there's $40 billion ready to give the American people Wi-Fi everywhere. And none of it got built. And it's because they just put in so many different layers of regulations into it. And it's like, that didn't help anybody.
No.
That whatever the good intentions of that regulation were, they didn't work because we didn't get it.
And again, I think, as someone who knows you, this is the side of the Democratic Party that people want to see, right? Like, it's not that you don't want to be helping people through the government. It's that sometimes regulations are just there and they do need to be cut. And there is a point in time where Democrats like yourself And many, moderates that are in the Senate and in the House now would like to see, cut, right? And like to see change. And so let's take a step back. We started going a little bit into policy, but tell me, so you lose the race, you lose the aldermanic race, you take a step back,
Yep.
you continue to work, and you see the race open up, right? Dick Durbin steps down. He's been our senator for 20 plus years at this point
Long
in time.
time, as long as I can remember.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say we were kids when he was a downstate or central Illinois
Downstater.
congressman, took over. And I mean, I can remember the name Dick Durbin, for as long as.
Yeah, I mean, he's an institution.
Correct. And so he decides to step down. You lose the aldermanic race in 2023. What made you decide I'm going to run now and I'm going to run for the Senate? Like, I know you have the political bug.
Yep.
I knew you would come back to it because you're too good at public policy. You're too good of a fighter. Your ideas are great. And again, this is coming from a Republican where, again, we don't agree on everything.
Yep.
But I can see your passion. I can see how much you do want to help the state of Illinois. When we were talking earlier about, the Windy City and how much we love it, no one loved it more than you. No one bragged about it more than you. No one wants to see the city and the state
Yep.
do well more than you. I mean, truly, out of all the people that I know who love Illinois and who talk about it, it's you. And so tell me why you decided to do this now. Tell the people why you want to run for Senate.
Yeah, so obviously losing an aldermanic race isn't normally the stepping stone to running for the United States Senate. At least not that I've seen.
Lincoln lost a House race and then ran for president, though.
That's true.
So this is a much smaller leap than that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Let's not compare myself too much to the
No,
GOAT,
that's fine.
but
That's fine.
But yeah, so here's one of those things. So I see Dick Durbin retire. I'm like, okay, cool, institution. We'll see who gets in this race. And at the time, like, I was still a little pissed off from 2024. I mean, you look at the race that we lost, and from a combination of Biden refusing to live up to his promise of being a bridge to the next generation, and then out of nowhere having to get him off the ballot and appointing Kamala Harris, who was great, but wouldn't have been my candidate. And it's like, you just fumbled a massive election to a guy that we thought was done. We thought should be nowhere close to the office again. And now it's way worse than the first time for us. I mean, now you've let the Trump administration have 4 years in waiting, making their plan for and they came in, and it's just, they have a way more aggressive agenda. And it's because we didn't have a real primary in 2024.
Yeah.
If we would have had a normal primary, if Biden would have stepped down and said, hey, I beat Trump, my job, and I said it, was I'm the bridge to the next generation. And if he would have honored that, we would have had somebody else that would have ran a full campaign and would have been chosen by the American people. There would have been excitement, and we would have had a very different 2024.
The debates would have been very different.
Debates would have been extremely different.
I mean, I think we all can look at him and say, this is a far cry from Nixon Kennedy,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But that was especially painful to watch.
No, it was sad. I mean, it was sad that I even got there. I mean, it's the most important job in the world, and we should have someone that is 100% ready to do it and capable of doing it. Does not need his staff to help him with so much. So that just pissed me off. So I was upset.
And not pissed off at Joe Biden as like the man and as someone who probably stuck up for a lot of the ideals.
Yeah, good man.
But the fact that we had let the fact that
The
we as a country, but as the Democrat establishment more than anyone and the staff, let it go as far as it did.
Yep, and then was no, hey, let's have a real primary. I mean, Dean Phillips ran against him, and like they just kind of closed it off. Like they built their wall around it, and they just said, no, we're gonna hunker through. So so I was a little upset, and I just, how do you mess this up this bad? This is big time baseball.
Yeah.
This isn't like, oh, cool, we lost a congressional seat in northern Minnesota to the Republicans, but don't worry, that we'll get it back in 2 years. Like, this is the presidency at a very important time. And so I was mad, and then so Dick Durbin steps down, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, we've got Illinois is one of the bastions of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, certainly.
I'm like, there's gonna be a ton of young, exciting Democrats going to get in this race. I mean, these Senate seats don't come up very often.
No.
And once you're
not in Illinois.
Not in Illinois. I mean, Durbin's been there my entire life. So I was like, okay, we're gonna get a group. And so I was like watching, and I mean, the one I was hoping Lauren Under would get in. She's a great congresswoman on the suburbs. She's dynamic, she's young, she's smart, she's charismatic. She's like one of those people that is gonna bring more people into the Democratic Party, which I think obviously 2024 we lost. So we've got to bring more people into the Democratic. Like, we lost. We got to get better. Like, you can't just keep running the same playbook and losing. So I was hoping she was going to get in. She decided to stay in her seat. And so I looked at the main three. So the main three, we got 2 members of Congress, and we got the lieutenant governor. It is just the definition of the establishment. It's 3 people, good people. They're good Democrats. They'd all be fine senators, but they're just the establishment.
Yeah.
If Kamala would have won and everything was going smoothly, this same 3 people would be the people.
Yes. Certainly.
So you lose.
Nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
Yeah.
And I'm a football guy. Like in football, if something's not working in the first half, you change it at halftime.
Well, if you get hit in the mouth, right?
Yeah.
That's going to make you have to change your decision about, hey, what am I going to do next?
Yep. If you can't get pressure on the quarterback in the first half, you're going to blitz more.
Yes.
You're going to be if you're down 14 points, you're going to change your offense and your defense. We just got crushed, and then we didn't change anything.
Yeah.
And it drove me nuts. It's like, how do you think this is going to work if we just keep running the same playbook? We're going to lose again. We're not going to get back to Senate. And so I looked at these 3 people, and again, great
and the
people.
map isn't a great map.
Map's
right?
terrible.
I mean, you do have the midterms, which
Yep. A lot of momentum for us.
Yes, and depending on who you talk to, right, you hear a lot of people upset. And this goes into, can you take, again, this isn't your base, but this goes into the question of, can you take some of these Trump voters, right, that their anger isn't really right or left.
Yep.
Their anger is they don't actually believe anyone cares about them anymore.
100%.
They see what is going on across the country. They see fraud in Minnesota. They see fraud in Ohio. They see their tax dollars being used, being wasted, being used for fraud. I mean, you go into the broadband thing, though. I mean, you see things that could help these people that end up not getting to their plate, even though they continue to pay tax dollars. And so, I think that there is a broad swath of people that are constantly independent. And I know people say, oh, no, there's no independence anymore.
Yeah.
There's always independence with that checkbook on the line.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
If and this is something that you've harped on, and we'll get into it, but I want to touch on some stuff first, but I don't think any of these 3 establishment politicians, which, from your side, I think are fine Democrats, whatever. Yep. I wouldn't vote for any of them, but I know you would.
Yep.
But can any of those people, and again, they'll win. It doesn't matter. They'll win Illinois. But we saw what happened with the congresswoman running in California when she didn't want any Trump voters, in her primary in California.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're not trying to get independence at some point in time, they are going to eventually hop onto one side. And so,
when you tell someone you don't want them,
yes,
they will
correct.
listen.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
very simple.
Yes.
If you tell me you don't want me to vote for you, then guess what? They won't. And the Democratic Party needs to win back people who voted for Trump once, who voted for Trump twice, who voted for Trump 3 times.
Yes.
If you're not winning those voters back, then you are not going to win another presidential election. And more importantly, just as importantly, you may squeak by with a presidential. Momentum on our side, could be a recession. You can win one, but you're not going to win the Senate back. So when Barack Obama won in 2012, the great Barack Obama, love him, he had 10 Democratic senators that represented states that he lost. So you had a party that was wide enough that you could have someone in Montana and West Virginia, Indiana, and Iowa still win on the same ticket as Barack Obama.
Yes.
And so he lost those states. And that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
So there is not a single U.S. senator that is representing a state that Joe Biden lost in 2020.
Wow.
And if we don't, and I believe Trump won 26, 27 states last time in 2024. So you're saying if we can't win states that Trump won with our senators, then we can't have a majority in the Senate. And if you don't have a majority in the Senate, you don't control the legislation, you don't control any of the outcomes, and you're not going to pass any of your bills. And so it's there's a certain part of the Democratic Party that loves purity. They love being the most left person. They love being the most progressive. And that's fine for primaries, but that's not how you win the Senate. And you can be as progressive as you want. If you don't have 51 votes in the Senate, nothing progressive is going to pass.
Certainly.
And that's the thing that drives me nuts is we can be more pragmatic. We don't have to sit there and be like, okay, no one's going to beat me to my left. It's like, we need to go win for this Senate race coming up. We need to win in Texas. That doesn't vote Democrat very often. Iowa, which used to, but doesn't. Florida, which used to, but doesn't. We got to go Maine is a possibility because it's a blue state and the Republican senator. Yeah. But we're down 3 seats, so you got to win all. You got to win all your gimmies. Michigan's still gonna be tough. That's a dem seat. We need North Carolina's a possibility, but you got to go win some hard races if you're gonna have the Senate back. And there doesn't seem to be a plan to win it. And so that's like what kind of got me. Like, I'm like, all right, cool. The party needs to get better at this stuff. We need to get more moderate. We need to appeal to people who have voted for Trump.
So, and I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
that goes into, because I think the purity test is a lot of what we see now, where I would say Republicans used to be the party of the purity test. We were the pearl clutchers. We were, oh my gosh, can you believe what's going on? That person doesn't align with everything we're saying. It does seem like there's been a shift to, more progressive, more democratic areas. And so, what would you say to folks right now that are listening, that are hearing you say some of these things, all positive about Democrats, but you do sound more of a moderate. And so what are your thoughts to those that would say, oh, you're just selling out right now? Hey, he's not really a Democrat. He's a moderate. Like, he's a blue dog, which at one point had a great connotation, but now
there's like 6 of them.
Yes, people would look at you and go, oh my gosh, this guy's crazy. And how do you match that with the fervor that we are seeing with progressive candidates, with the AOCs, with he just was sworn in yesterday.
Yep.
Zoran and New York City. How do you get that same fervor? How do you get that same mentality?
Well, I think the one tough part, I think, is that people now treat politics kind of like they treat sports.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm a Cubs fan, like you're a Sox fan, like, Cubs are the best, Sox suck, and I want to win everyone, and I root for them like it's a sports team. And I'm mad after losses, and I don't like the opposition. And, like, it has kind of become a hobby. Like, being like you like see so many people like wear their politics on their sleeve. It's now a hobby. It's now a sports obsession. And that politics isn't a hobby. It's not supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to like you're making people's lives better. Like politics is about power. It's about gaining power and then using that power to make the people that voted for you and everybody else lives better. So when you're treating it like a hobby of like you've got to be the best, like like LeBron's better than Michael Jordan, like when you're treating politics like that, you're not making people's lives better. No. So like that's why I would say the people on the progressive side,
winning just to win.
Yep.
There's nothing to gain, right? It's not a sport. There's nothing to gain by just winning just to win.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how much have we seen that, Steve, from both parties in the past couple of years? What have the Republican Party done on the promises that they made, and specifically? You have the House and the Senate. What have they done to really make their base believe in them?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, obviously,
in the future. I mean, and it's the same for Democrats.
Yeah, this is like something that upsets you that obviously doesn't upset me as much. Is there really hasn't been an agenda for the Trump administration other than the one big beautiful bill?
Correct. I don't know if it was that beautiful. To be honest with you.
I mean, when it's big, it's probably not gonna be beautiful.
It's almost never beautiful for small government guys like me.
But so it's just one of those like there is no agenda for him. Like the Trump is a winner. Like he's kind of like the definition of this sports thing. You're with us, you're against us. Like you root for one or the other. So like he won. Like that's all he always talks about winning. How many states he's won, how much he's won by. He loves this great state of Oklahoma because he wins there all the time. That's how he thinks, and it doesn't lead to a bunch of, for you guys, conservative wins. Yeah. You got one bill. I mean, and there's no. What's the legislation? Oh, you got a whole nother.
No.
We're 1 year in.
Correct.
And you got a whole nother year. Well, you have a trifecta.
So,
and is there a bill that's even going to pass?
So,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, correct. And I wouldn't just say it's just the Trump administration that does this. I would say this has been going on for too long amongst every single politician, which is, a win is a win is a win. And they don't care how it comes. It doesn't matter who it affects or who it helps. As long as they won, that's all that matters, that they can hang their hat on. And so I would agree, as a conservative, as a Republican, I've been very disappointed in terms of what we were promised versus what we're getting. But I would say that's been going on in the Democratic Party for years too. And I think a large part of that is, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I do think a lot of it is progressives have taken a much more vocal stance in terms of how policy is being promoted amongst the Democratic Party. And the leaders of the Democratic Party, which used to be much more moderate, much more business friendly, much more typical of the Tip O'Neill, Ronald Reagan relationship, which is, hey, we're going to work together. We're going to get this done. We're going to get this bill passed. It is much more now grandstanding. And again, that's amongst both parties. No one is immune.
So I would push back a little bit. Barack Obama won when he had his trifecta, he made the biggest changes to our healthcare that we've seen ever. So, like,
And
obviously,
we don't need a debate right now if it's good or bad.
We're having a
We
good
can
day.
save that.
It's still the holidays. We're not
Sure,
we're not going to argue about that. But he did use that win, and he did enact major policy reform. Obviously,
in 2009.
Yep. Well, obviously,
it's 2026.
obviously, we then kind of fell off the rails a little bit. One, we passed the House passed a cap and trade bill that devastated the moderates. The blue dogs, like you mentioned, all got in trouble because they had to vote for it.
Yes.
And Harry Reid, leader of the Senate, said, "Don't send that bill to the U.S. Senate because I'm not going to lose all my moderates for a bill that I don't think is going to pass." And they passed it anyways. We lost the House, and he never had a trifecta again. So he had 2 years of trifecta, one massive thing, which is great. And great.
Wait. Let me harp on this really quickly. I cannot tell you how much I had to hear about cap and trade from Steve at one point in time. Now, it's been about a decade since I had to hear it, but I can tell you.
Oldie but a goodie.
I heard cap and trade no less than 50 times in a short span of weeks while this was happening.
Yeah, I wasn't happy then. Still not happy about it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say Barack did have his big piece of legislation and try to get it. But I do agree that there doesn't seem to be like a big agenda. Like neither of them really moving. There's a lot of small, a lot of trying to hit singles.
Yes.
And then also like a lot of like trying to do everything your party's way, which is what kind of drives me nuts too about where it is right now. I think both parties do this. I think both parties aim for 51%.
Yes.
Hope for a trifecta by base turnout.
Yes.
And then they govern just doing that, caring about that 51%. The 49%, they try to jam as much as they can through, and with ignoring everybody else. And like their goal is, especially I think even the more progressive part of my party is like, okay, we can get our 51%, we can get our trifecta, and then we can just massively change the country, which way half the country doesn't want.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not how it works.
No, it's a parliamentary system.
Exactly.
It's what we see in the UK, right? It's what we see in Canada where it's a bully, you get the 51% and then you bully your legislation through.
Yep.
And that's not what our founders meant. Our government is meant to have 3 branches. It's meant to be a little bit slower. It's meant to be incremental change.
Exactly. And it's meant to be changing with the other party. Like you find a couple people on the are going to agree with you on this. A couple people that are going to agree with you on that, and you start building coalitions to move stuff. I mean, that's one of the things that that's one of the things that definitely bugs me about our politics today. Is that the goal is to win and then to jam a agenda down the other half of the country's throat, and neither party seems to me trying to become a governing party, a majority party, get 60%. I mean, look back at what Reagan did. Like Reagan won 49 states. Like even like Clinton won a ton of states. He had an absolute landslide. But
when politicians don't keep their promises, this is what happens, though, right? I mean, that's truly. I mean, you look at Clinton won. One of the reasons why he won. You can go into Ross Perot and you can go into some other things, but one of the reasons was read my lips, no new taxes. Well, when you're a Republican and you say read my lips, no new taxes, and then you decide to tax, you open yourself up to the charismatic.
H-dub?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So Clinton beats HW.
Yeah, okay.
But you open yourself up when you don't fulfill your promises to the other party taking. And that is what could be happening unless things drastically change in a year with the Trump administration right now. You promised all these things and you haven't delivered on them. And so that brings me into my next set of topics, which is, Steve, tell us a little bit about your agenda. I know you've spoken on a couple different mediums about affordability. And I think that is what both parties should be shouting from the mountaintop right now.
Yep.
And it's, it isn't, hey, don't buy 47 baby dolls, don't do this, don't do that. Tell me a little bit about how you think you can make things more affordable, but give me some other policy, items on your agenda.
Yeah. So that affordability, obviously, life in Illinois, life in America is too expensive. I don't care what income group you're in. Like you feel like I remember back in the day, we used to go to Chipotle, and I used to get 2 burritos.
True story.
Yep. And everyone was like, they would see me like checking. They're like, wow, it's like, how's your Chipotle $20? I'm like, well, I got 2 burritos. They're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now I go to Chipotle. I can't eat 2 burritos anymore because I'm not playing football. So I got to watch the weight.
Yeah.
But 1 burrito's now $20.
Yes.
And that's something you see every day. And like, there is nothing the President of the United States is going to tell us that we don't know that burrito's more expensive than it used to be. Biden had his whole thing that, inflation's transitory. It's going to go away.
First time we ever heard that before.
Yeah. I, as an economist, I did not like that. And then Trump just says, affordability is a scam. It's like, nope. I know my Chipotle burrito is more expensive. Excuse me,
Yeah.
right here. Like, there's nothing you can't talk and point your way out of this. So life is too expensive. So that's like, and me, I'm an econ guy. So like supply side economics, obviously, our budget deficit is crazy. Like, we can't just keep spending our way out of this
Yeah.
problem. Like, you can't just keep putting more.
How dare you?
Yeah,
How
I
dare
know.
you as a Democrat say that?
But we don't have enough money to subsidize everything that everybody wants demand side economics. We're going to subsidize housing. Cool. We're going to give housing vouchers, but that helps the people that get the vouchers, hurts the people that don't get the vouchers, and realistically raises the prices of housing.
Certainly.
Supply side economics would say build more housing. Well, increase the supply, you decrease the price. And so that is something that the Democratic Party is, I think, coming to now. Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson had a great book called Abundance. And it was all about like, we need to make stuff cheaper, lower the barriers, make more of it, make it cheaper to make more of it, and that's how you're going to really bring everybody something without having to fight over like subsidy dollars or government spending.
The way you do that, though, would be cutting some of that red tape. No.
No, I think we should be cutting massively red tape, especially in housing. I think housing, obviously, is the biggest budget item
Certainly.
Everyone has.
I mean, you look at rent.
Rent
you
is
look at
crazy.
everything.
I mean, rent, housing costs. I mean, you recently bought a house.
Yeah.
You know how expensive it is.
Correct.
I still rent. I know how expensive that is, and so we need more of it. We need to be able to make bigger. We need to make bigger apartment complexes. We need to eliminate parking minimums. We need to make it easier to build next to transit centers. We need to make it cheaper to build.
Now, NIMBYs are going to hate
NIMBYs, believe me, I'm not even worried. They've already not voted for me. I'm YIMBY as they come.
Yeah.
It's just there's just got to be. We just got to start eliminating. We got to speed up permitting. Not only just like cut red tape, but like speed up permitting. Because like when you're talking about like house builders, like time is money. Like the longer it takes to get something through and approved, the more costly that thing is. So like that's why a lot of NIMBYs would be like, oh yeah, like the only building that stuff that ever happens in the city is like luxury building. It's because it takes so long, and thus it's so expensive to build. Then it has to be luxury building.
That can.
Yep. And so if we made it faster and we made it cheaper, then we're gonna get that missing middle that we're looking for. So housing is number one that's the number one thing we got to do. And then obviously number two is got to be healthcare. Regardless of, again, we're not arguing about the Affordable Care Act, but healthcare is still too expensive.
Certainly.
Whether you have insurance, don't have insurance, it's too
matter.
expensive. So we got to find a way to make that cheaper. And then, again, the problem with like making stuff cheaper is like, we can't just like, our whole plan can't be like, okay, cool, we're going to just pay doctors and nurses less. You know what I mean? Like that's like that. No one's signing up for that. But
No.
So we got to find a way to make it cheaper. So
Yes.
we've got to first off make it more doctors. So we want to like eliminate the cap on residencies, so we can have more doctors. So like more doctors can be everywhere. Stuff like we need tort reform. Like being a doctor is extremely expensive, and so like
a Democrat just said we need tort reform.
Yeah, I mean I'm not going to go all. My tort reform and your tort reform is probably a little different.
Yeah,
but it still needs to happen.
It.
Yeah, but it still needs to happen. It's just we got to make it cheaper to be a doctor and cheaper to give care.
I agree.
And we got to use new technologies. Like there's just so much to do. A lot of it, again, we need more innovation out of our pharmaceutical industry. We also need to make sure our pharmaceutical industry doesn't do the innovation here that we help pay for through our university system, and then go sell it for less money to the Europeans. I'm fine selling less money in poor developing countries, but the Europeans can pay the same price we pay.
Listen, I agree.
And they negotiate our farmers down, and we can pay the same.
Yeah,
that's the new. It was made here. We deserve to benefit from it.
Certainly.
So there's a lot of stuff you can do on healthcare. And then obviously like groceries. Again, we're talking about how expensive groceries are, and the thing is like we want to make them cheaper. But how do you do that? Are you going to go tell the farmers they had to make less money? Like that's no politician's going to say that farmers need to make less money. But what you have to do is you have to make it cheaper and easier to bring groceries to the table. So making shipping costs less, making all the transportation less, ending the Jones Act and the Foreign Dredge Act, which we can get into, is kind of nerdy, maybe next episode. But there's just things we can do that are under the concept of my supply side economics, make more, make it cheaper, and use economics to do it. And that's like the policy reasons I'm running. I'm running because I think those ideas, I think they can get some bipartisan support. And I think that if we started implementing them, we'll start, again, lowering costs. And the tough part too is the next Democratic president has to lower costs. Because like that's what we're gonna run on, and people know. Like this isn't like you don't get to just like tell people things that, like we said earlier. Like, oh yeah, things are better. Like people know. So like if you're not finding a way right away to start cutting costs, then it's gonna be a one-term presidency again.
Yeah.
And so I think that getting more senators in there that are going like, we're going to take on the tough fights to make it cheaper and by the time we get a Democratic president, like we're going to supercharge it. So that's like the policy reason that I'm running.
So, and I guess, again, people will see this and they'll see you say certain things about tort reform and they'll go, oh, this is just another moderate Democrat. But I know in reality, you may be, but you also are a fighter for the everyday people. And so, when you talk about affordability, that requires picking fights with, powerful special interests.
100%. Yep.
And so
the AMA is not going to like when we lift the cap on residencies. The trial lawyers are not going to like tort reform. You have if this stuff was easy, it'd be done.
Correct.
You know what I mean, like we've kind of solved a lot of the easy problems in America.
Are you willing to take on some of these pharmaceutical companies? Are you willing to take on, because, it's not just farmers, right? That deliver our food. We'll be told that something has to be, the only way to make this cheaper is for us to put in some of these ingredients that no one wants anymore, by the way.
Yep.
It's amazing. I mean, you look at the horseshoe of Republicans and Democrats now, and I'm not going to call it the Maha movement. I'm not going to do that because that just scares people and they go, oh, that's just Trumpism. That's RFK, whatever. Democrats were the first ones to really push for this safer food, less,
less additives, less colorings.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy that whatever Europe has banned, we should just ban.
Well,
they are obviously. We know anyone has been to Europe. You go to Italy and you eat pasta every single meal.
Yes.
And you come back and you're not any fatter.
No.
But you eat pasta every day here.
There's people with gluten intolerance.
Yep.
That go there and eat.
Shout out Z.
Just shout out Z.
Yep.
Shout out Amanda, who we're going to see later today. She claims she's gluten intolerant now. These people go to these countries and they eat this food and it's fine. And it's okay. And you talk to Europeans that come over here and eat our bread and they go, oh my gosh, it tasted like I was eating like a Pop-Tart. Like there's so much sugar. Yes. And these special interests, it's not just the farmers that need to be paid more. It's not just them that, need to deliver cheaper food. It's these large conglomerates that own every single thing that you eat that they don't want to change their policies.
No, they love that. They're publicly traded companies. They need to make every little bit of margin because that's what's.
But this is where we would agree in terms of, I probably swing, people go, oh my gosh, how is this capitalist?
How are you so anti-corporatist?
Yes, how am I so anti-corporatist? And it's just like, because at a certain point in time, you have to do what's best for the American people. And this is not what's best for the American people.
Yeah, so that's like one of the fun parts about this race too, is that I'm pretty much self-funding the whole thing. I'm taking no corporate money. I don't have any big donors. So like, if I pull this off and I win, like I owe nobody anything. So many members of Congress, they owe different interest groups so much. I mean, some people in my race have raised over $20 million. And when you raise over $20 million, people don't give that to you out of charity. They expect something back.
They always expect.
Exactly. And so all 90+% of my funds are coming from my own self. So I have a responsibility to myself to be the best senator I can be. So that's like the fun part, is if you can pull one of these upsets, you really don't owe anybody. You're not controlled by any of the corporations. You're not controlled by any of the interest groups. And that's like one of those things, like, you want to see real change in Washington, send some people that owe nobody anything. And then you'll see. And because like I've got 6 years to do this. Yeah. So like, and you know what? I'm going to be judged by how well I do for people of Illinois. So I am not going to be judged by how much money I raise. If I can win this race off of the amount of money I'm spending in this campaign, you can be damn sure I'm going to win the next one.
Yeah,
we're spending the same amount of money.
Absolutely.
So like, there is no
the name recognition.
Exactly. There is no big money interest that's going to say, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to vote you out. Be like, well, I just beat a guy that raised $20 million. You're not dropping $20 million in my race, so I'm going to keep doing
Correct.
me.
And I think what we've seen, Steve, and I know we're on a kind of a time crunch here, and I want to ask you one more question before we kind of have to jump. But we've seen progressive candidates win with very little money from special interests, with very small donations, because they're fighting for the people and because the people 100%. Know that they're fighting for them, or at least think that they are, right? Like, in my opinion, I look at some of these candidates and I go, I don't think they have, the best of, what's for them, but the people believe that they do.
Yep.
And so I think that's the same thing that you project right now, is the fact that, you actually are fighting for everyone in Illinois. This is Southern Illinois. This is Central Illinois. This is Chicago. You're not just looking, hey, I just win Chicago and then it's over. I don't need anyone else's vote, right?
Exactly. Yep.
This is for everyone in Illinois. This is for affordability. This is for better health care. This is for, cheaper, more reliant goods. This is someone who actually is looking out for the people of Illinois. There's no special interests involved. There's no people pulling your strings.
Yep.
This is Steve Botsford saying, this is how I think I can help people.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that the progressive wing of my party does a better job with, is they do have that energy and they do have that fight. If you say fighter,
there's no doubt.
Yep, you're thinking AOC.
Yes.
You're thinking Bernie. You're thinking Zoran. Like, they've got that energy and that charisma and that fighting. But one of the other parts about why the left part of the party does a better job with that is they elevate leaders much quicker than the moderate side.
Yeah.
So if you look at AOC, like, she was
Pay
famous.
your dues. Pay your dues.
Exactly. So she was famously a bartender, and then she became the biggest member of Congress on the planet. Like Zoran, he was there for 2 years, and then now he's the mayor.
Yeah, don't even get us started.
Yeah, but the thing is, they uplift them, and so that you get those people that haven't ran 6 races where they've made all the campaign promises and raised all the money and are controlled by all the special interests. You let someone go right away, and they aren't controlled by those, and they can actually have that fight. They can say everything they want to say. They can make all the things they want to do, and that's like what the moderates need to do. So I was, I'm decently I'm not part of the establishment, but I got a couple connections in Illinois.
Yeah.
So I was having some conversations around talking about, hey, I'm thinking about making this run, and everyone's like, well, yeah, like, obviously it's an uphill battle. I'm like, I don't mind uphill battles, like,
bide your time.
and so many, hey, run for something else.
Yes.
Oh, I would love to help you run for Cook County Board or State House. And I'm like, that's great. Like, we need great people everywhere, but I'm not waiting my turn. I'm not a wait my turn kind of guy. Never have been, never will be. But the whole part is that the moderates always tell you wait your turn. And then you wait your turn and you run for lower office, and then you get the moderate offers, and then you start running for Senate, and you're 15 years down the line. Now you're a 50-year-old suit that has taken all the money from all the special
baggage.
interests. Yep.
Yes.
And then everyone's like, oh, these moderates all kind of suck, and they all are just these corporatists that, like, all they care about is their donors. Yeah, they had to. You just told them to spend 15 years where all you do is care about your donors.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way, even if I don't win, is start elevating young moderates so that our side of the party still has that energy and still has that no holds barred, anti-establishment, get shit done kind of stuff. So
that's our first swear, by the way. We were
pretty good.
We were actually a G podcast until he just said that right there. You just moved us to PG.
That's the longest I've gone.
Yeah,
so
you just moved us to PG.
Yeah, I've been on my best behavior.
All right, you have 1 minute to answer this question, and then I want to give you a couple rapid one sentence for another minute. But this one question, we have to talk about it because it's on everyone's mind already, and it's going to be a large part of policy making for the next 5-10 years, which is, where does AI belong in this race? I mean, I haven't heard anyone talk about it yet. I haven't heard a single Republican or Democratic politician from Illinois talk about AI yet. And this is something we should be discussing immediately.
No, I mean, I think that's also somehow out of touch the establishment is. They're not talking about it. They probably don't use it because their staffers use it. AI is going to change the world. Like, AI is going to be like the Industrial Revolution, but instead of over a century, it's going to happen over a decade.
Yes.
And if you're not thinking about that, then you're already too late. China's thinking about that. Like, so there's 2 parts. Like, it's us versus China. At the end of the day, like, I don't want to go back into another Cold War, but that is our competitive rival.
Yeah.
And I want to live in the world where America sets the rules. I want America to set the rules of the economy. I want America to set the rules of international diplomacy. I want America to set the rules of AI.
Yeah.
So we can't lose to China because we know their rules. Their rules are not American valued rules.
Do they have rules?
Well, whatever G says.
Yeah, there you go.
And so one man rule is not the democracy that I think we live in.
So this podcast is banned on China now.
Oh yeah, I don't think my visa will ever pass there. That's fine. I don't need to go.
I'm good with it too. I've seen pictures of the Great Wall. It looks awesome,
looks
by
sick.
the way.
We can see it from the other side.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, it looks great.
But that's one of the things is, like, we need to have a plan. We need to win. So we can't have there have been some politicians, Bernie Sanders, that just says we need to stop all data centers and we can't have any more data centers and we need to, like, get an idea. It's like, okay, so you just want China to win then. If you want to stop our AI, American AI, then you're just hoping that China wins and they're going to write the rules. So I'm not for that. But we also need to make sure that we don't get 20% unemployment. Like, there is so much dignity in work, and like some of the AI CEOs just say, oh, no one will work. It'll be great. Like, computers will do everything. And then you just get to spend all this time with like leisure. People don't do great with 100% leisure.
No.
Leisure's great. Vacation's awesome.
Great.
Weekends are awesome. Hanging out with your buddies, having a pint, talking politics is awesome. But there is such dignity in work, and what value do you bring others? It's not like, oh, cool, like, you just have to work. It's all about money. No, it's like every day you go to work, you're bringing value to someone doing something.
Yeah.
And so we can't let AI decimate that. So
and it's not Ludditism.
no,
right?
no,
I mean,
I'm pro AI.
Yes.
I want strong AI. I want like safe AI. I want more AI. I mean, what we're going to be able to do with curing cancer is like with AI is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Instead of having 5 experts that are working on brain cancer, we're going to have 5 million experts because we have as many computers as we want work on it. So like you're just going to magnify what we can cure, how fast we can do it. So it's going to have awesome stuff. I mean, cancer fucking sucks. And this, like, if AI brings us the end of cancer, like that is a huge win.
Yeah.
But so we want to accelerate that part. But we just need to make sure that we're not just decimating jobs. And I don't think we will as an economist. I think we'll figure out other stuff to do. If you think about the world and it's like, oh, is there really going to be a chance to 20%? Like, there's just so much to do. If you think about like, there's just too much stuff to do.
Yeah.
If you had a perfect AI, we need better roads, we need better schools, we need more beautiful buildings. We should be building build buildings in Chicago that like rival what like Rome was building during
I mean,
there's still so much to do. Like me personally, get to Mars, like moon bases. Like there's enough to do for humans. I think we'll find work, but we got to make sure it just doesn't decimate. We need to make sure that what happened to the Rust Belt because when China joined the WTO, we don't get another version of that with AI.
Yeah.
And I think like we just can't just okay. There are no new lawyers. There are no new accountants. There are no new bookkeepers. Like you can't just like decimate and so I want to make AI fast. I want to research it quick. I want to be ahead of China, but I want to make sure the implementation doesn't cause so many problems. Like the Industrial Revolution caused a lot of problems. It was great, but it caused some problems. If that century happens in a decade, I just want to make sure that we're not decimating American people.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, certainly. And we can go into that on the next, podcast, but, I think you've given people a lot to think about. I think you've introduced yourself. You've given your policy. There's so much more that we have to discuss about just you and not even, we can discuss more policy that you have in the next podcast and talk more about you, and certainly leave time for debate as well. But the last way I want to end this is just to introduce people more to you. And so let's just go through some quick hitters. You're a politician, so it doesn't need to be a one-word answer. But I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and you just give me like a sentence or two.
Let's rock and roll
on what your answer is. So, deep dish pizza in Illinois, is it Lou Malnati's or is it Giordano's?
Neither. It's Pequod's.
I knew you were going to say that.
Pequod's is the best. Obviously, it's a little more city than
hipster bots.
It used to be Illuminati's when I was a suburb guy. Because Illuminati's is the best in the burbs. But I live in Lincoln Park. Pequod's is the best. I always kind of get annoyed when people like out of towners. We don't care about their opinion. No. But like when Chicagoans knock. Illinoisans knock deep dish. It's like deep dish is great. It's not every pizza I eat. I'm typically eating thin crust. Yeah. I'm typically eating pub style, but it's still great. They're both great. Why not both?
Okay.
So Pequod's for deep, Pats or Bacino's for tavern style.
Okay. Cubs World Series.
Okay.
Or Bears Super Bowl.
We already got a Cubs World Series.
We got one in 2016.
So I will do Bears Super Bowl. Before it would have been close. But now that we got one in the bag, we got ours from my boy Javi Baez. It's time for the Bears to win Super Bowl.
Okay. Portillo's. Hot dog, Italian beef, or burger?
So beef, always number one. Beef, extra hot. Also,
dipped or
not dipped. Okay. I feel it comes out pretty juicy as is.
I would agree.
I think dipped.
Some people like dipped.
Yeah, dipped. I don't know how you do anything the rest of the day. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to hold on to anything. So yeah, I'm a beef extra hot.
Okay. Dublin or London?
Dublin. Dub, baby.
Okay. Dublin.
I feel like Ireland is like one of the 2 places that I've traveled to in the world that like by about 5 days upon your arrival back home, you'd be down to go again. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you need a little bit of a breather.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just like, you're ready. Like, so like, I went to Germany once and like cool Germany, like saw Munich, saw Berlin, saw a Bayern Munich game, like their big soccer team. It was cool. And I was just like, when I got back, I'm like, I could not see Germany for another 10 years. Like, if someone asked me to go, I'd go. But like, I don't need to. Whereas like, I get back from Dublin or anywhere in Ireland, I'm like, I'd go back next week. Yeah, I could go back next week.
Okay.
That and Italy. Those 2, you can go back as many times as you can possibly handle.
MJ or LeBron?
Obviously, Michael Jordan. It's not even close.
I know.
I mean, it's like
I needed to have everyone hear you say it because everyone just needs to know Michael Jordan's better.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you add Michael Jordan and Kevin Durant together, he's got more championships and MVPs than both of them. Like he's like that much better. Obviously, LeBron is cool because he's like 6'9", and he's just an absolute freakazoid of an athlete. But he doesn't play defense.
Okay. And then who do you hate more, Michigan or USC?
Well, for my entire life, it would have been University of Michigan. USC was always a great honor rival. It was kind of like you're like
Something's coming here.
Yeah, it's like you love butting heads with them. It was like iron sharpens iron. So it was Michigan for the longest time, but USC just bailed. They just cowered it out. They ended the series. What I would say is the greatest rivalry in college football, minus maybe Army Navy, and they just backed out of it because a team that's never once made the playoffs is backing out because they need to find a way to make the playoffs. Like Lincoln Riley's not going to be there in 2 years, and he gets to decide to end one of the longest rivalries that started with Newt Rockne. It's been 100 years. Yeah, so I think USC is now number one in my hate list. It's kind of fun actually because normally I would always root for USC to go to 11-1. I want us to beat them, but I want them to be highly ranked. And then I'll always hope Michigan goes 0-12, just because I don't like them at all. But now I hope they both go 0-12.
Okay. And then I got two more.
All right, two more.
Adams or Jefferson?
You got to go Jefferson. I mean, wrote the Declaration of Independence.
This guy couldn't be more wrong. No way. Adams all day.
I mean, Hamilton, obviously, the GOAT. I mean, the patron saint of American capitalism.
Bots is a big
Hamilton.
Burr guy. Don't let him tell you any different. He saw the musical and was rooting for Burr the whole time.
In seventh, it would have been AP US History with Pierman. We had our summer reading was Gore Vidal's Aaron Burr, 700-page book.
Yes.
We had to read it. Yeah. And that was the first time I was in.
First time I heard the name Gore Vidal.
That was the first time I was in.
Yeah,
that was the first time I was in an honors class. So I thought you really had to read the whole book.
Yeah.
And so I read all 700 pages, and all you heard about was Burr whining about everything that didn't go his way and every person that wronged him. Everything was not Burr's fault. He was just like the epitome of like that football coach that like always blames the ref for bad recruiting or his administration. And so I just like naturally just did not like Burr. And then the musical came out. I was like, oh, done.
All right, and then last question: Illinois or everybody else?
Illinois, baby.
All right,
best state in the union.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Thank you guys for joining us for the first Pints and Politics and Pints. We look forward to seeing you guys again. It'll be a bit more lively, but hopefully you guys enjoyed getting to know Steve, listening to some of his policies. Again, the primary is March 17th.
St. Patrick's Day, baby.
So
go before you go to the bar. Yeah.
Vote early. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice job, bud.
That was fun.
Love you.
Love you.